Join us for a two-part interview with Johnathan Bonnell, co-founder of Wholly Veggie, a plant-based food company from Toronto that's helping disrupt the frozen food aisle with better-for-you snacks that celebrate and focus on the vegetable. Watch our interview. You'll feel better.
I'd always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just felt that, for me to make an impact on this planet, when I'm gone, when I'm out of here, and people try to remember like what I've done, if I could walk away with, hey, I helped, nudge the planet a little bit further in the direction of sustainability, I'm happy with that.
Okay, let's get into this. According to a study from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention in the US, only 10% of American adults eat enough of their vegetables, numbers that aren't far off of those in Canada and the United Kingdom. Numbers that also belie the incredible effects these eating habits have on our health and the environment. Unhealthy eating behavior usually comes down to factors such as time and taste, but it seems it's also fueled by being cheaper. A comprehensive review of 27 studies in 10 countries found that unhealthy food costs less to purchase every day than healthy food. Despite the obvious health benefits, it seems that vegetables, when compared to cheaper but less healthy options, leaves a bad taste in some people's mouths. And that's where this week's guest comes in. Johnathan Bonnell of Wholly Veggie creates products that provide more healthy and sustainable options that are helping democratize access to those foods made from plants. Starting out in a digital advertising career, John's awakening to the world of plant-based food began when taking on the strategic direction for a client that worked in the organic and natural food space. It was after a frustrating experience where he decided the legitimate need for innovation that consumers were looking for were being swept under the rug in favor of playing it safe, that he decided to instead explore the off-the-beaten-path journey of entrepreneurship, and it seems to be certainly worth the risk. According to GFI, plant-based food sales grew almost 2.5 times faster than total food sales from 2018 to 2020, with plant-based food revenues growing to almost $6 billion in 2019. Fast forward a year later, and the market saw growth of 27%, showing the awakening people have to the benefits of a plant-based diet. So what's the hype about? According to research, plant-based diets have been consistently proven to reduce the risk of cancer, while also helping to provide benefits to the body, including immune system support, inflammation reduction, and reduction of the risk for other diseases, such as heart disease. But it's not just your body that benefits from a plant-based diet. Research also shows that a global shift to plant-based diets could help reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 70% by 2050. John's journey is really a classic story of feeling a need and then hustling to create a business that may one day help change how we eat. Now, let's hear from John. So I would like to welcome a very interesting, exciting entrepreneur whose business, Wholly Veggie, operates in a really, really exciting part of the market, which is food. And food, of course, is something we can all relate to. A lot of people are interested in getting into the food business. And what's interesting about my friend here, Johnathan Bonnell, who's one of the co-founders of Wholly Veggie, is the fact that he's now working in the plant-based area of the food business. So I'd like to welcome you, John. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate being here.
So John, let's start. Tell us everything we should know about Wholly Veggie.
Yeah, so I'd say the elevator pitch in Wholly Veggie is we're a Toronto-based plant-based food company. We make plant-based frozen products, so appetizers, snacks. People may know us by our buffalo cauliflower wing, which is the number one selling cauliflower wing in North America.
They're
and then
delicious.
Plant-based, thank you very much, and plant-based entrees, so meals. Our whole kind of pitch as a company is we're disrupting the frozen aisle with plant-based, better-for-you food. So products that make plant-based accessible to a broader audience. And we like to make products that also celebrate the vegetables. So, you'll never see us doing a mimicry sausage or a crumble or a burger. We're all about products where you can see the veggies, taste the veggies, and you're like, wow, this is just a super easy way to add more veggies to my diet. So that's what we're all about. We sell all across North America now. And we're an interesting company because we are primarily retail focused. So we don't do very much on direct to consumer right now. And that's something we're looking to unpack and solve.
Interesting. So tell us a bit about your background and what led you into the creation of the business?
Yeah. So, you and I, Robert, actually share a bit of a similar background. So I started my career early off in advertising, specifically in digital advertising. So my first job out of university was actually at a company called Critical Mass. Critical Mass at the time was doing a lot of back end and a bit of front end development for companies like Citibank, for Nissan, for Mercedes. And I got kind of thrown into this world of user experience and interactive design. And I loved it because at university, my favorite course was a course called service design. And it broke down the interaction of someone walking to a bank to go into a teller and to leaving, and understanding that at each moment in that journey is a moment to build your brand. It's a moment to over deliver on the customer experience. And I loved what I did, but I became more interested in the creative side of advertising. So I left Critical Mass, joined a Montreal-based agency that some people may know called Sid Lee. And at Sid Lee, I had a ton of fun. I was flying all over the place. I was a planner. I was working on different clients like Major League Soccer and Dell. But one day, a company came through the doors of our Toronto office called Blue Goose. And Blue Goose was actually a very unconventional client for an ad agency. It was a wealth management company in Toronto that had acquired a big organic cattle ranch in British Columbia. They'd acquired a chicken operation in southwestern Ontario, and then a organic rainbow trout farm up in Manitoulin. And the whole pitch was vertically integrated, farm to fork, clean protein. And they asked Sid Lee to design the branding for it. I was the strategist. I embarked on this mission of trying to come up with a value proposition for the company, and it made me fall in love with the food business. And so I left. I joined Blue Goose on this mission of launching this multi-tiered protein company in Canada. And not too long into it, I started kind of getting hit with the realities of the food system. One, that the animal protein industry is just not sustainable. We are around the world, developing countries are building middle classes. And the first thing a new middle class does is it increases its disposable income spend on meat. To achieve these goals globally, the amount of animals that would have to get brought into abattoirs and brought into ranches, it's mind-boggling. And so I was working with a colleague at Blue Goose, and we were bouncing ideas off one another. And I had just come back from Expo West, which is the kind of number one food show, the Super Bowl of natural food in the world. And I started seeing the rumblings of this plant-based industry. And I recalled back in 2013 reading an article in Wired about Beyond Meat. And I realized that this was a solution to an unsustainable way of feeding the planet. An idea of injecting something with lower carbon impact without the use of so much land for growing corn and soy, and without the animal husbandry problems with animals. And so quit my job at Blue Goose and started Wholly Veggie on basically an idea on a napkin. And the idea was, how could we create a line of products that made it easier for people to have a more balanced diet? And if you have a more balanced diet, you reduce the amount of meat being used in the global supply chain. And that's how we started. And that's a bit of my background. So an ad guy turned meat guy turned veggie guy.
Wow. I'm dying to know what's next, but we'll still focus on Wholly Veggie for the moment. So, it seemed, the way that you described it is, kind of you saw the opportunity and you kind of went for it. But I'm curious about the kind of the human side of you, because I've had a chance to chat with you a couple times now, and I know that there is a connection to the subject that's a bit more than just, hey, here's a way to make money. So I'm curious about that. What was it? You're a smart guy. You could have taken a bunch of directions. Why plant-based? What was the connection to you personally?
Well, there's a couple of things there, and just to kind of comment on it, I'd say if you want to make money, don't start a business. So if you want to cause change, start a business. And I think for me personally, I didn't like the fact that the industry that I was operating in was kind of like an old boys club. So, there was every time I brought an innovative idea to the table, it would be shot down. Every time I questioned why is something done this way in the meat industry, it would be, oh, well, it's always done this way. And if you know anything about entrepreneurs, you know that the moment you tell them it's just the way it is, at the moment they start thinking about an alternative to that path. And so I was frustrated. I was frustrated with that. And I'd always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I just felt that, for me to make an impact on this planet, when I'm gone, when I'm out of here, and people try to remember like what I've done, if I could walk away with, hey, I helped, nudge the planet a little bit further in the direction of sustainability, I'm happy with that, right? I can't take my car to my grave. I can't take assets to my grave. I can take my legacy to my grave, though. And that's something that I think as entrepreneurs you get to do, whether it's, changing people's lives through building a great company, whether it's by coming up with a new technology or new innovation, whether it's saving the planet. Like, it's something that you feel good about. And that acts as your North Star, to be honest, when you're going through the storms of entrepreneurship.
Do you know that the description that you use there is one that I love in speaking to entrepreneurs? The creators speaks to entrepreneurs from all over the world. And, I think oftentimes we think that the people, different places are so different. But the one thing that I've always found, regardless of where entrepreneurs are coming from, is it seems that there is a very, very strong sense of wanting to, wanting to manifest something positive in the world. And I often wonder, just as a side observation, business gets such a bad rap. And I'm always amazed by that, because the majority of businesses are small and a lot of entrepreneurs are like you. They really want to have a positive effect in the world. And it's so nice to hear that every time I hear it. So I'm glad you said that. So you said that the business started as an idea in the back of a napkin. So I'm dying to know, creating a product and getting it into retail, let alone getting that business and the product to scale to a point where you become a number one selling product in a category, is just an amazingly challenging journey. So if we just start at the beginning, how do you translate a napkin concept into a product in the shelf of a major retailer?
Yeah, look, I defaulted to my strategic training as a planner when I was in advertising, which was build your business plan. So that napkin obviously turned into a 25-page document, which was, who's going to be the consumer? How does this impact culture? What's the competitive landscape look like? And what can be earnable white space? How is this thing going to make money? And how do we grow it? And, that kind of allowed us, David, my business partner, and I, allowed us to begin to, MVP a concept. And one of the things we did, and we love to get insight, is we, at the time in Canada, obviously in Toronto where we're based, there weren't many plant-based food products in the grocery store. There was Daya, some plant-based cheese, but there was no Light, there was no Beyond, there's no Field Rose, there was nothing. There's Eve's at the time. And so Dave and I decided, like, let's drive across the border. So we hopped in the car, and that day, for some reason, we were in suits, and I don't know why. But we're in suits, and we're in my little Ford Focus, and we were driving across the border, and we wanted to go to Wegmans, and we wanted to go pick up all the plant-based products we could get there. And so a little fun side story here. We pulled up at the border. It was about 11 a.m. It was a Thursday, and I told Dave, I said, Dave, play it cool. I was like, just tell this person that we're going to go see a hockey game or something, right? Because we were in suits, it was kind of awkward. So we show up, Dave hands the passports. He says, what are you guys doing? Dave goes, we're going to go see a Sabres game. Okay. He goes, what time's the game? 7 p.m. He goes, you guys have tickets? Dave goes, no, we're just going to scalp them. And then he goes, are you guys going to come back tonight? Dave goes, play it by ear. Did not give us our passports back. We had to drive to this area where they searched our cars. What are these guys doing? That's ridiculous. Anyway, they let us go, and we told them the truth. We were just two guys trying to start a company. They wanted to go buy a bunch of plant-based products at Wegmans and bring them back. So anyway, crossed the border, went to Wegmans, bought everything. And Dave and I are not cooks. We're not chefs. We're not product developers. But we found someone who was. And his name was Ted Reeder. He was this famous barbecue king. Everyone knows him. He used to work quite closely with Dave Nichols from President's Choice. And Ted said, I'll help you boys, but bring me everything you can find. So we rolled up at Ted's place, and Ted's office was in his garage, and it looks like an ode to Ted, like all these old photos of Ted when he was on, doing burger competitions. And we brought all the products out, we put them on a table, and we went into our first big task, which was understand your competition. And what we discovered, and the insight, was that all of our competition were focusing on this category of fake meat. And Dave and I said, this isn't where we want to play. We want to play in the other category, which was products that look like vegetables, taste like vegetables, and celebrate the vegetable. That was the first insight that was born. And then we did the next part, which was, will consumers care? Do they want a product that looks like vegetables, tastes like vegetables? Well, the two big insights there were, people do like vegetables. They just find them inconvenient and intimidating. And we wanted to go out and address that by dropping those two barriers and making products that were convenient and were easy to understand. They weren't confusing. And after that process of figuring out what our white space was, understanding the cultural opportunity, we then did our next MVP was we went to a trade show in Canada. Trade show is called the Canadian Health Food Association show, and that allowed us to put our products in front of all the prospective retailers in Western Canada. And at this time, we kept costs minimal. So Dave and I used all of our nickels and dimes to put together the samples. We shipped the samples out the cheapest way we could. We flew red-eye flights. We stayed in some, Motel 6, Dave and I, with the old school beds. And we just did whatever we could to keep our costs minimal. And we basically concepted that product in front of our clients. And
now, can I ask, the products that you were sampling with these prospective customers, were they products that had been made in a proper food business, or had you made these in your own kitchens? What were you sampling?
Yeah, so the one thing that we had learned, thankfully enough, by making mistakes working for another food company was, if you're going to present something, if you're going to present a prototype product, present it as if you've run the actual manufacturing. So what I mean is that you have to run a line trial on the product. If you present something from your kitchen, your costing is going to make no sense. You have to run a line trial, because your line trial, whether you're launching a TV, or food, you have to run your line trial. So our line trial basically allowed us to go and figure out what would it cost us to make a minimum production of this stuff, which was about 40,000 burgers. What would it cost to produce that? And that allowed us with confidence to go into those presentations and say, hey, this product that you're seeing, this is actually what it will look like, number one. Number two, our costing is firm. Well, there's always variables, but our costing is firm. And three, we actually had a realistic plan to get this into production and into somebody's retail store. The worst thing you could do.
So sorry, you had actually had a manufacturer make you some prototype product.
Yeah, and to do that is also a big challenge.
Yeah.
Because we had to convince a manufacturer that we had all this business when we had no business. So the first thing any manufacturer asks you is, what's your volume? And Dave and I had to, fake it till you make it. So I remember we met the owner of the manufacturing facility. He gave us 5 minutes meeting him at a Dairy Queen parking lot, and we did the pitch. we had our suits on to the pitch. We're going to be huge. We're going to land all these stores. And he said, okay, guys, come next week. You can brief my team. And remember, we rolled up into the facility. We walk in the boardroom, and there's like 20 people from their team there. We didn't even have the name of the company settled. We called ourselves Pure Valley Foods at the time. And they asked us in the meeting, do you have any retailers? And I said, yeah, blah, blah, Sobeys, Metro. I was like, they're all ready for the product. We hadn't even presented to a single retailer at that point, but we needed them to believe, right? And then that allowed us to move forward. And that's a real tricky one because I see other entrepreneurs, like, look, no path is 100% the only path. Other entrepreneurs will test products now in a commercial kitchen. They'll then launch it direct to consumer through their website. They'll get a bit of a cash stream going. They'll get a client base. Then they'll go to co-packers. Dave and I didn't do that path. We short-circuited. We went right to line trial and then to retail. And it's more expensive that way because you've got to have the money to be able to support your listing fees, to support your promotional spend, to run your demo. But that's the only way we knew.
So even as a tiny early stage business, those retailers are still charging you listings fees.
It's a scaled approach. The retailer that took us on at that time was Metro, and they were amazing with us. The produce buyer met with us, and it was two people, Danny and Linda, and they met with us, and we went in their office and in the kitchen, tested it. And they brought us in, and we weren't charged listing fees right off the bat. Once we got to a certain level, they did. But there are other players. Look, I've got emails every day where I'm pitching a retailer, and the first thing that's asked is, can you afford the fees? And some instances, it can be upwards of $25,000 per item that you're paying. And that is a big barrier to entry for a lot of smaller companies. And it necessitates a strategy of, win your regions, plant your flag, and then you can go and use that to justify a retailer either negotiating on a listing fee or bringing in capital to help you pay a listing fee as you continue to grow as a business.
I hope you enjoyed the first part of our interview with John Bonnell, co-founder of Wholly Veggie. Click on the second part of our interview to hear about what it took to create their first big retail win and how staying focused on the brand's purpose has helped build their growing legion of fans.